That's all new. I like it. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate that. I enjoyed that.
Don't thank me. Thank Chris.
I even had a wow in there somewhere, I think.
Chris worked on that for a week. Want to see it again?
No, I'm sure I'll see it a lot, but I like the part where you took that old, there we go. I guess I don't have a choice. Yeah, you showed my old cover shot on the only magazine I was ever a cover on. So
that's it.
It was for the Better Business Bureau magazine. Woo! Right up there with Vogue, you know? Okay. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about all my getting older, although I have been. In fact, not next week. Yeah, next weekend I'll be 63 years old. Saturday will be my birthday. But the fact of the matter is I'm going to go, Charlie, the websites will never work. It'll never catch on. The internet's stupid. Okay, now where am I now? I'm still in radio. Okay, let's see what happens there. Thank you, Charlie, for letting me see the light in one hard day at a time.
It's one team making it happen, buddy. One team.
Yes. And, of course, where's Danny? We got to get Danny in here. We had such a good time with last week. Danny Milliken, he answers our gardening questions from 7 to 9 on Saturday. Smart son of a gun. And I just saw he got a new position. I saw that somewhere in Facebook this week. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, he's gone
something older. What was it?
It's funny. It's almost like he's gone back to his roots. He's gone back to be with the Texas Botanical Center, something.
Yeah, it was new
Houston
to
Botanical
me when I saw
Gardens, I think, is where he's gone.
Okay. Well, he deserves to be there, and I know he's sharp. He knows his stuff, and those kind of positions. Not like you get rich at them, but you got to be really good to get in that scientific side of everything like Danny does. So
Indeed.
Good for him.
Indeed.
Yes.
Well, and so we got a lot of questions teed up, and of course we'd love to hear your questions, hear from you as well. So if you want to get us your questions and be part of the show, you can do that by going and put your questions down below in the comments section, and then we'll bring them up and Tom can answer them. But we also have some that we've gotten from homeshowradio.com. We'll get to those in just a minute. But first, we're going to talk about what's happening in the news around the corner and up your block in home improvements. And this week, we're going to talk about how to do home repairs without tapping your emergency fund. And specifically, we want to talk, what is your emergency fund? The fact is, right?
I was going to say most people don't have one, so there's nothing to tap.
Right.
But anyway, go right ahead.
Well, conventional wisdom is you should have 3 to 6 months of cost of running your house in the bank. That's your emergency fund, because really the purpose of it is to be a shock absorber against life. It's not for repairs and emergencies. It's a case, you stop making money, say, for like a year. So let's say there was some sort of weird pandemic that swept the world and you had no income for a while. I know it's a remote chance it could happen.
Yeah, right. Just like the internet was not worth it. Okay.
Well, it's funny. My daughter had this problem. My daughter Stella lives in Florida, and last week her car started running rough, and then the check engine light came on, and nothing good ever happens after that. And so she wound up having to come out of pocket with a significant amount of money for repairs. Well, she didn't have an emergency fund, so that's what you need to do to fund your home project. So there are 5 options that financial experts recommend, and actually there's one they don't. The first one is using your credit cards for this kind of stuff, and that's the wrong way to go, because those are your interest rates on those are going to be 20% and over, possibly well over. Or you could get a home equity loan. Those are going to run you about 6% these days, which is not bad when you get right down to it in terms of cost of money. And then there's the other thing you can do is get what's called a HELOC. And a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. And that's how we did some work around our house when we first moved in about 10 years ago. We had a bunch of things we had to get done quick, so we got one of these. And the only thing
I have one on my house, just for everybody who knows.
Okay,
yes.
Right. And we still have it. We just don't access it.
It's like a bank account in the reserve, yes.
Right.
I got it.
It's somewhere between reserve and whatever. And the nice thing about this is it's like about 4% right now. But remember,
exactly
these things, they can be a variable interest rate. So you want to be careful in how you use those. And then, of course, you can always refinance and do a cash out financing, where you finance for the house and put some money on top, and you're going to have 30 or 15 years to pay that money off at like 3%. That's another way to go. And of course, there is, the 5th way to do it, Tom, which is the way my dad tght me to do it, which save and pay as you go.
Yes.
which is really the best way to go. So when you're managing your money, I know that's not necessarily newsy, but it's certainly something you can use, and that's really what we do.
And I want to wait before you end this thing. Can I add one thing, or is it too late?
Yes, absolutely. No, Tom, you can't speak after the music. Yes, of course. Go right ahead.
My son and I had this conversation. He just bought his first house, and for those of you just thinking of your home, if you take 2% of the value of your home every year and put it in a bank account, whatever that value is, that should take care of the home's expenses, everything for the life of the home. Now, I realize that's a lot of money at the first years when it's new, but let's say about that 8th year when your air conditioning system needs to be replaced, your roof needs replaced, maybe the 10th year, maybe the 12th year. It looks like a lot of money, but boy, that will suck down fast. So if you look at a house, a good home's around 2%. The bad homes, where you got to be really careful, they can run as much as 8% over a 20-year period just to maintain the home. So watch out what you buy, and remember, your home is not free. You always have to have cash just to maintain it. And that's not doing what, Charlie, you just talked about, improving it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you always have to put that money in and put money aside, because you never know when it's going to happen. And Stella was able to tap into the First National Bank of Dad for a loan.
Yeah, I know. I'm that bank too. I didn't realize I was going to the banking business until I had kids. Understand?
Right. That's right. I like how people say, well, after 18 years, they're much cheaper when they're younger.
They're
much
cheaper when they're 3.
Yeah.
I keep them all at 3. It's like living in the cash, man.
It's so true. It's so true. All right. So if you have questions and you want to get them to us, feel free to do them. You can do it right now, but you can join us in here on the show by sending your comments into the comment section, and we can do that. And we'd love to hear your questions. But in the meantime, let's go to some of the ones we have here from the
Oh, you're not going to play the music. Okay. No, it's just for my own. Well, it kind of did. I stopped it by accident.
That's all right. Don't worry. It's all right.
Okay.
You're among friends. We're doing.
I'm good.
Fine.
No, I've already switched gears. I'm up on the second gear in my column.
So John, what you got? What is it? What you call it? Call it 3 on the pole or something?
3 on the column, yeah.
Right.
But nobody knows what that is except for one person out there going, really?
Exactly.
That's when it was in your way. Okay, fine.
All right. So Jim in Corfu, everyone's already read this 3 times, but I'll read it for you. He says, I'm installing a solar panel that requires a 4-inch Schedule 40 10-foot pole. As an alternative, he wonders, Tom, could he use a 10-foot Schedule 40 PVC pipe filled with cement?
Probably. I don't see why not. It's a solid. I think it probably. I'm wondering, a Schedule 40 is about a 1/4 inch thick when you get into a steel pole, so it's pretty standard stuff. We use it in the welding industry to teach pipe welding. So we use a Schedule 40. But full of concrete, I just don't know why you would do it, but I don't see why it wouldn't work, because it's going to be a heavy pole, and it will definitely, as long as you pour it straight, I hope it stays straight and doesn't get all wiggly woggly when it's curing. So that's the thing I would worry about. I don't know if I'd substitute it, but I'm not going to tell you it wouldn't work. I don't know why I'd do it. Yeah, it's going to it's not going to be nice and straight.
That's the first time I've heard you use that one.
I made it up just now. I invented it.
Wow. See, ladies and gentlemen, there is no off position on Tom Tynan's Genius Switch.
No, I'd get a Schedule 40 steel pole if that's what they wanted you to use. That's what they use for that stuff.
Yeah. I would just be worried that, I think the difference between steel and concrete is pretty profound. One of them is brittle and the other one isn't.
Yeah, and it still hold what he wants to hold, a solar panel. But you got to get into wind loads and stuff. So it's more the connections and everything than it is the actual pole. As long as the pole doesn't crush or break and fall over and it's secured properly, I think either one would work. I just don't know if I wouldn't use it. I'd use a metal pole because it's easier, and that's what it's supposed to use. When people start to go out of the box saying, well, they tell me to use this, but what if I did this? Well, nobody's ever sat there and punched numbers and did wind loads and all this on a concrete-filled Schedule 40 piece of PVC. So... But it seems to me, in theory, it might work. But theory goes a lot before reality. So I'd be careful. I wouldn't change the specifications.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like so many of the, I hate to say it because I sound like an old man when I say this, but you see kids coming up in the business today, and they think they have opinion, and you bring experience. And it's like one of the other,
True. And in my case, in the building industry, it's either this is the way it is or it isn't, whether I like it or not. That's the way it's supposed to be done. And it's like building a car. That old song where you take pieces of a Cadillac and slowly put it together. It doesn't work that way. You got to engineer the thing from start to end, and everything's meant to fit together. So you really don't have a lot of options in the building industry. You have rules that you've got to follow.
Right. And somebody told me once that the youth passes up innovation while we pass down wisdom. And so somewhere
there's no doubt.
Somewhere things work. I forget who said that. So if you remember, you go ahead and tell us, and I'll give you a little brownie and put your name on the screen here. How's that? By the way, Thanks to Thomas and Mary Etta and Melinda and Chris and Daryl and Xavier, Sharon and Patrick watching, and so is Mike. He's got a question for us, Tom. He says, can you talk about how a two-stage AC unit works? I installed Nest thermostats on my church unit, and the screen says stage 2 cooling. I don't see this on my personal unit at home. I'm sure it's a two-stage unit. Oh, and dynamite.
No, dynamite, yes, I got that part. Okay. How a two-stage unit works, it just measures the load as it's working, and it will just, if you have a 5-ton unit, it will, I'm just going to use an arbitrary number, it will slow itself down to work as a 2.5-ton or 3-ton unit, so you're using less energy because it realizes it doesn't have that much load on there. How it does it, it's computers and stuff. I can't get into all that, the technical part of it. What a Nest thermostat does, it just turns it on and off. It's still a thermostat no matter how complicated it is. It's still nothing but a brake. You can't turn it down to 60 and cool it faster. When it gets to whatever temperature you set, its job is just to turn it off. And when it's not at that temperature, it turns it on, heating or cooling. Now, why it's showing you a stage 2 right now, maybe the thing is oversized and there's not a load on there. And once you load it up, it'll go to a first stage if that's what it means. I'm not even know what the 2 and the 1 means. 2 might be full blast. 1 might be, the lower stage. I haven't read the technical part of it, but that's what a two-stage unit does. It just reduces the tonnage that it's actually acting as. So it's a less ton unit, which means less electricity because it's reaching the point it needs to reach. And how it does that through the computer boards and stuff, I can't tell you. Reduces energy usage.
Are you a fan of those?
No, I am not for a house. Now, he said a church. In a commercial application and stuff, it might be worth it. Think about it. If you're cooling a church and there's nobody in there, then it's probably going to go into half the capacity or, whatever it's set at, 70%, 60%. But then when you load it with 100 people or how many your church has in there, and the doors are opening and closing, and you've got people coming in and out, and I don't know how many of you back in the old days, everybody was doing this in church, dying, and they all have their nice hats on and clothes on. It's going to go into its full load, and that's probably why in a church it would be different, and in a commercial building where you have a lot of in and out and a lot of bodies, a lot of computers, a lot of other activity, then yeah, it's probably worth it. But in a house, not at all. Turn it on, cool it down, and when you get down to your repair bills, your maintenance costs, and your efficiency is going to be there. Your costs are going to be a lot less over that period of time we were talking about, that 2% saving money for your house. It's going to use less money down the road because the motors and everything else costs less to replace.
Hang on.
Okay.
Charlie,
train's coming.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's one way to shut me up.
My apologies.
It's like a horror movie.
Yeah. So, all right. So, and as for the Nest, remember that thing goes into a learning mode now and then too. So it's going to be learning.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work in 2 stages, single stage.
Yeah, and using it in a church can be kind of tough. Like for mine, when I leave the house sometimes, mine will think, oh, he's not here, and goes into an eco mode. So I don't know how that's going to work in a church.
And that's why I don't like things to think for me. So I don't have one, and Charlie does because he's the IT guy. And I'm a non-IT guy. I'm a non-it. Like a non-vaccination person, a non-it.
Anoint?
Anoint. Okay. Yeah, fine, make a word up for it.
Anoint. Yeah, anyway.
I'll just put the button when I want it to be colder.
Run mine,
I get colder.
If it makes you feel any better, I run mine in what could be described as bypass mode most of the time anyway. I turn it up when I want it, I turn it down when it's basically a really expensive Honeywell sitting on my office wall. All right, this is where I was trying to get to here. Gerald in Northwest says, I have a house and the previous owner sprayed foam in the weep holes. What should I do about it?
Well, if you want to, if the house has been there a while and these people had an idea of probably not to have bugs come in, that's usually what people think about. Or maybe they said, well, if the water gets up there, it won't come into the house, which is not true. It's going to get in anyway. And you don't have any problems. The house has had foam in the weep holes for 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. I probably wouldn't do anything. I think down the road somebody will probably say something, or maybe they already have, like, hey, you're not supposed to have that. Or if there's a home inspection done, they're going to say there was foam in the weep holes. If you want to go down and clear 2 or 3 out every weekend for the next 2 years, it's not going to hurt it anyway. At least it's foam and it's not cement to where you're going to have to chip it out. So at least you can probably just take a stick and poke it and pull it all out if you want. Would I do it and spend all that time if there's no problems? Probably not, but it was a bonehead idea to do that to begin with. It's just because you have these weird things that people are going to talk to you about during sale and what you're going through now. Should I do this? Only time will tell.
So
there's a reason they're there.
So
we're back to that concrete and post. You do it one way, there's a reason it's done this way.
Right.
Okay,
well, where would you go with that, Tom, in terms of determining if there's a problem with that? I mean,
you know it. You'd have water coming in the house. You would have stains all on the brick. You would know if there was some kind of issue. The house was getting mold on the walls along the baseboards because water was trapped in there. Those kind of things. I think it would have been pretty obvious if you had a major problem. All that's supposed to do is just let the air move behind the brick, dry it out a little bit. The water tends to move down to the bottom, so it dries it out quicker. If you had a dark, wet stain around the bottom of the house, that would be a sign that there's a problem. If you had some mildew growing around the baseboards and stuff, or the carpet was damp around the edge after a lot of heavy rains, that would be an obvious problem. So you would see something like that. It would be right in that small area at the bottom of the brick.
All right, fair enough. We got a question. Jack sent one in here. Jack's a regular. It's good to have you with us today, Jack, and along with Mary and Christina's with us. And let's see here. We got just saying hi to y'all as I see you come up on the screen over here. Let's see. Jack says, why don't we see turbine vents on new home construction versus soffit vents? I'd assume the turbines would keep the attic cooler.
That's a great question. First off, the big point I want to make here is a turbine vent does not replace a soffit vent. Even if you had turbine vents, then you would have soffit vents because something has to feed it. If you don't feed a turbine vent, it's nothing but a hole in the roof, and quite frankly, that's all it is. So you have to have both no matter what your exhaust is. A turbine vent's an exhaust vent, so it's moving air out. Something's got to move air in. Soffit vents are a must for any kind of vent. I don't care if it's a solar vent, ridge vents, turbine vents, and you can go on with air hawks and turtlebacks, and there's a lot of different types of passive and non-passive active venting to release the air. Now, the reasons turbines aren't used much anymore is because they're antiquated. They were invented back in 1968 by a guy named Big John, who I got to meet one time, and just in the northwest side of town. I know he's passed away to be 200 years now, 200 years old. I was on the air, and he said, Tom, you're always talking turbine vents down, and I'll get to that in a minute. But he said, I want you to come meet me. And it was his way of inventing something to help with attic ventilation, because the only thing they had before that were the gable vents, and there was nothing else on the market. And so this guy came up with this idea, and he invented it, and then it got caught on, and I don't know if he patented right. I don't remember the whole story, but it was an interesting afternoon meeting this guy in this old warehouse in the back. It's like one of those movies, the chainsaws, where there are chainsaws hanging around, and there's a guy back there, and you wonder if you should go in. Well, I went in, and I heard all about Big John and his turbine vents. But here's the downside of it. It leaks when it rains. If you stand under one when it's raining, it will, if it's spinning, which most of them quit spinning after a very short period of time, you will get sprayed with water. So it's not a great idea on a roof. They're not that good of a ventilation system as far as keeping water out. Number two is the ball itself tends to blow off in high winds like hurricanes. So they certainly aren't good for the area such as Houston or anywhere that has high winds and storms, because then all of a sudden in the middle of a storm, you've got a 12-inch hole just dumping water into your attic. And if you wanted to do the same thing and have the same effectiveness as a continuous ridge vent, you'd have to have one every 24 inches across the top of the roof. And that would look absolutely ridiculous, and it would be a total waste of money and make your house look stupid. I don't care. That's just another way to put it, but that. And so they just became, once the ridge vents came out, and at the beginning ridge vents weren't very good. They weren't made very well. They were just molded steel. But when they started to develop them to meet the high wind standards and the roofing industry caught on with it, it just put all the other ones out of business because it's the best way to go. That's why you don't see them anymore. The market has dried up. They weren't that good to begin with, and Big John's not out there pushing it anymore.
And there are no chainsaws hanging in his lobby.
No, they were weird things. It was a strange building I went into. Like
Betty.
100 years of hoarderness.
Yeah, okay. Well, Betty in Quakerstown, PA, right? So
Yes.
she wants to know, my home's about 30 years old, fiberglass rolled insulation. I want to get new blown in. We had mice, but just some old turds in the insulation. There are no dead rodents up there. Does that mean I need to remove the old insulation first, or can you just go ahead and put it over it?
You know, if it was my house, I'd remove at least the areas that were really bad just because I'm a real anal, compulsive, neat person. And I don't care if it's a turd or anything else they left behind. I don't want any kind of rodents in there. And it depends how long they were in there. If it was a long period of time, I would probably get rid of it all. They can go up there, remove the insulation. There's vacuum trucks. They can vacuum it all out. It's a mess, but I probably would. If it was just a small area, then I would just remove a little bit in that area and then blow fiberglass, just blow it all over the top of it. Whatever you keep and what you don't keep, just fill the areas up and put what you need up in the top of there. But if it was really bad, I would get rid of it. I don't think anybody wants turds in their attic.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
If we had turds in the attic and it was good, we wouldn't need a bathroom. We'd just go up in the attic. I got to go to the attic with a newspaper and a cup of coffee and see you later. Sorry, it just came to mind.
I just, sometimes you make a turn and I'm holding on.
Yeah.
I'm making around the corner with you. All
What's
right.
Billy doing? Oh, he's up in the attic. Oh, we'll leave him alone. Make sure he turns exhaust fan on. Okay.
We have at homeshowradio.com, folks. If you go over to homeshowradio.com, you will find, if you go to our homepage and you scroll down, you'll find all of our Home Show pros are on there, listed by name on the homepage. And if you go to click on that Find a Pro button, you'll see they're all listed by category. Well, one of our Home Show pros is Glass Doctor. And we have a feature we'd like to share with you right now. You'll be the first people to see it because we haven't even put this up on our website or
I just
Facebook.
did it
page.
yesterday.
Yeah, well, exactly.
At
It's
5
still
o'clock.
piping hot out of the editing
Yeah,
bay.
no kidding.
And we want to share it with you because if you have a pool, chances are you may have one of those mesh nets around it. One of those horrible looking things that never holds up over time and always blocks your view. And Glass Doctor has a better idea.
You paid good money to get a pool. Why block it off with a mesh fence when Glass Doctor gives you all the safety and does it transparently?
Wanted a glass pool fence.
Having a glass fence allows you to have a completely frameless design. So you can sit at your breakfast table, look out over your beautiful pool, and not notice your fence at all.
A frameless glass fence.
I'm an engineer, so I like to work very precisely.
This slides onto your glass, supports your glass without having to have any holes in your glass at all, and that's all the hardware it is. It's completely frameless.
But what about safety?
Half-inch clear tempered glass is very safe. It's so safe you see it at hotels and resorts. And to give you an example of how safe it is, the glass in your car door is less than half as thick as what the glass we're using here is. So it's over twice as tough, twice as strong, and twice as durable. Here we have a piece of sample glass to show you just how hard tempered glass can be.
Getting the right glass in the right place gives you a strong and pleasing look. And when it comes to taking care of it,
We put a protective glass coating. We call it a hydrophobic coating that causes the water to bead up and fall off, that protects your glass and makes it 99% easier to clean.
one less thing to worry about. Glass Doctor's safety and technologically advanced engineering didn't happen overnight.
This is something that's been proven through the years. We're just now bringing it to a residential customer. So it gives you the safety you need without taking away the overall look and design of your pool.
Because where there's family and a pool, there's one overriding concern.
Obviously, getting a new pool, safety was our first concern. And, glass pool fence really gives all the benefits of still being able to enjoy, your backyard and the beauty of the pool without the less visually appealing mesh pool fences.
Beautiful pool, beautiful view, made easy.
We're thrilled with it. Yeah, we couldn't be any happier. Our fence came out beautiful.
Getting the right glass and the right purpose and keeping it safe. That's what makes Glass Doctor my home show pro for glass. For HomeShowRadio.com, I'm Tom Tyner.
Well, how about that?
That's cool. I didn't even see
Congratulations.
it. I just did parts and pieces. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's Mark, who is our one of the people
Nice
in the video
video.
department. That's his very first feature he's finished working on for us, and congratulations.
Did Chris
Mark. Well
do the
done.
shooting? Yeah, did
No.
Chris do the shooting?
That's,
He did
that's
the
a
shooting
total
too?
Mark Lampert production right there.
He did a
so
great
good
job.
job, Mark. Great
Good
job.
job, Mark. Yeah.
So, and again, if you look for home show pros like Glass Doctor or any of the people that Tom recommends, HomeShowRadio.com is where you will find them.
Yeah, Charlie, let's just, real quick, I just want to say, you saw that video? Could you imagine, and Charlie, you can add to this, how many of those types of videos we have for you for free? So please, go to our website and watch all the videos of all our people. They're interesting.
Yeah, you'll see there's a key right there at the top. It says videos. You do that, you can see the entire library of them. And if you go to the Home Show Pros, there are videos about each of them and so on. So that'll help you out a lot. And there's a lot to be found at HomeShowRadio.com. We hope to do it. And of course, Tom will be helping you out all this weekend as well on the radio.
I will be Saturday from 9 to 12 and Sunday from 8 to 11. Charlie will join me this Sunday morning. And I'll be coming live from Houston this weekend as opposed to Brownsville where I am right now. So I'm getting on an airplane tomorrow and I'll be in my #1 luxurious studio that I have in my home in the Houston area. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, Danny, who knows where he's at, but I know he'll be on the air from 7 to 9 on Saturdays, going live from, I don't know, Costa Rica, the jungles, maybe Galapagos Islands. We'll see what he's going to be doing this weekend.
All right. And before we go, we're just about to run out of time. I've got something here, Tom, from the Department of, this stuff really happens. I don't know where this is in Europe, but if you watch this carefully, this guy's obviously has a partner in crime in the vehicle because they're got their foot on the gas. And what's he doing with this rope that he's winching? Watch the background.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
They've got a pulley up there, and he's doing that. But you know what? How do they make sure that it's pointing the right way? Hang on. I think he needs. It's almost as if he could have a buddy with another rope. There he is, making sure.
Oh, well, that's rigging. That's what you do is move it around. Okay.
That's
I
it.
teach rigging classes, so yeah.
Anyway.
This must be the guy that wants to fill the pipe with concrete
I'm thinking it's his brother.
because he has no steel there. I like that.
All right. Well, that's it for the show today. We appreciate you being here. We'll be back again next Thursday, 4 o'clock Central Time for another Ask Tom Live.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro who knows. Home Show Radio. Home Show